I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County's mayor, and today on this special show we have an individual that I am tickled to death to be with, and a gentleman named Tom Lawrence, the voice of WAKM, one of the voices of WKM. Tom, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the invitation.
As we journey down these special tapings that we're doing for the community, most people probably know who you are. They're familiar with that voice. I guess if we cut the cameras off right now and you just spoke, they would pick up on you.
Perhaps.
But tell us a little bit about Tom Lawrence. Take us back to those high school days or even earlier and bring us forward. I know you're at least over 21, and so there's a little history there that we may want to know a little bit about.
2000 census says 9% of Williamson Countyans are born and raised in Williamson County. I'm part of that 9%. Raised, I'm a native of Burwood, the Lawrence Grove, and the Lawrence Grove is a suburb of Burwood. Burwood is a suburb of Thompson Station, like Thompson Station, suburb of Spring Hill. But was raised in Franklin Special School District, Battleground Academy, class of 68, Lipscomb University, class of 72. Went to work in radio at age 14 at WFLT-FM. It was a little FM station above Sewell Electric Company on 4th Avenue South.
Now wait a minute, say those call letters again.
WFLT-FM.
I've learned something.
FM 100. And went to work there at age 14 because Bob Sewell liked the sound of my voice. It had already changed. The Lawrence clan was a Sewell Electric Company family, and Mr. Sewell thought I'd sound better on the radio. Then I'd do a better job at that than transporting refrigerators and stoves and things like that.
Why radio? And I know a lot has evolved over your life and my life. Today we're in a world of TV and it's entertainment. But why radio back in those days?
Well, face for radio. Thought about television at one time, but television is much more complicated. Radio, cut to the chase, pretty simple. And but watching a radio program being produced is kind of like watching the county commission work. It ain't pretty.
Well, Tom, let me ask something. Just again, get to the bottom line. I know that a lot has changed in radio.
Oh, it has.
The AM, not too far from where you called home every morning, almost every morning of your career today. Where WAKM is located is a couple of miles away as the crow flies is a large tower.
Mm-hmm.
Huge tower. It's been there a long time.
A diamond-shaped tower.
Diamond-shaped. WSM, been there. It's
29, 30, 31, something like that. In fact, my grandfather had a photograph of a sign on Franklin Road, way before there was a Concord Road. And that sign was dated, I believe it was 1930 or 31, 1 year before the Empire State Building was officially dedicated. And the sign on Franklin Road, WSM Tower, tallest man-made structure in the world at 873 feet, I believe. It was replaced by the Empire State Building, and but that is a little piece of Williamson County history. Our tower is maybe a third of the size of that one, but on Mallory Station Road. But radio has changed considerably, but its impact hasn't. First thing you do when you get up in the morning is you turn on the radio. Most folks get woke up by the radio.
Sure they do. And AM radio in those early days was kind of a staple.
Yes, it was. I remember as a child listening. I was born in 1950. WAGG, which is now WAKM, signed on the air in 1953. And I was about 3 years old at the time, but I remember listening. My parents would listen to Trade Time Live. I would listen to Ralph Emery, not on WSM, but on WAGG. But Trade Time Live used to come from the Standard Farm Store in downtown Franklin. Trade Time's still on the air.
Probably one of your most listened broadcasts that you
Probably
do.
is. It probably is. No, it sure makes the phones ring from 12:15 to 1 o'clock.
You mentioned Ralph Emery. I don't know that he started what is now WAKM, but it's a face, it's a voice, it's been around a long time.
Bill Orms started WAGG. He was, at the time, a writer for the Nashville Banner and had always had a thing for radio. He had just, the Orms family was an old Franklin family, and he went out and bought the cheapest land he could find, and that is now Cool Springs. But at 222 Mallory Station Road, when we bought the radio station from Tom T. Hall in 1982, it was still quite affordable, but where Franklin's longest, widest, straightest section of asphalt street is now, it was a winding one-lane gravel road. And that's the only way we could ever afford it. I think Cool Springs announced about 3 years later. Praise God.
Tom, over the years that you've been affiliated with the radio station, as you said, there have been a lot of changes. The call signs, WAKM, mean a lot to me every morning, and almost every afternoon. If I'm not in a meeting, I'm listening to it. Hearing your voice, yours and Charles Dibbles, Jim Hayes, and there have been other men come and go. The
Men and women.
And women. Mm-hmm. Yes, I meant that in a generic way,
yes,
but
sir.
thank you. The future of AM radio, not so much WAKM, but the future of AM radio, for the most part. As you know, I was raised in East Tennessee. There's a little local station there that continues to broadcast the local events, the things that are important to that community. But your business isn't anything different than when I was in private business or even running government. You got to have revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Hard question. You always say you're throwing the curveball. You've asked me that. How about AM radio versus FM radio?
If technology is about to be the great equalizer, when AM radio is fully digitalized, if that is the correct words, either digitize or digitalize, there won't be a difference. However, people have grown to lean on AM radio for news and information and sports, not music. If you want to listen to music, you're going to turn on a big Nashville FM or plug in your iPod. And the music industry itself is changing. Elvis Presley came in to WAKM back in 1954. Dolly Parton, the Judds, I mean, they've all come through peddling their records. Said, please play my record. You've seen the movie Coal Miner's Daughter, the Loretta Lynn story. It was filmed at WAKM because it actually happened at WAGG at the time. But the music industry has changed. It already has changed. But the radio business itself, our business is based on information, local information. If you want the national news, no shortage of places to get it. But if you want local news down to what time Aunt Sally's funeral is today, there's only one place to get it.
I think what you've answered the question then, will the new technology help to continue to prop up, or will we see more of the stations of AM versus FM? Will they continue to fall by the wayside?
All radio stations will continue to fall by the wayside because there are too many of them. I'm grasping for, for an appropriate answer, but technology itself. Franklin, for instance, is wired to go all wireless. The city has made that investment. Sometime, and it may happen while you're mayor, Williamson County may go all wireless. When you can drive from New York City to Los Angeles, California on I-40, there will come the day, people are watching right now, they won't have a radio in their car. They will have a computer in their car, and you just punch in what you want to listen to.
To some degree, recently I had the opportunity to travel to St. Louis to visit my son and his family. And once I left the confines of the Nashville area, pretty well switched to satellite radio.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it was talk show, sports, and part of it was a lover of country music, particularly the old music. Was able to enjoy that completely all the way to St. Louis. So I guess I hadn't thought about the movement that is occurring. There was a time that you only had a choice in the car. I remember as a young boy, pretty much it was all AM.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember when Dad and Mom got the first car that had the FM. You pushed a button, made the change. I remember, as you do, I'm sure, that the early days of television were through what we refer to now as rabbit ears.
Yep.
Or you had an antenna on the outside of your home, and you went out and directed that change of that antenna to pick up either a UHF or VHF station.
Well, terrestrial television will be just like terrestrial radio. It will be replaced by the internet, especially when the internet is wireless. So what you see today, 10 years, will not be available anymore. It will be replaced by something much more extensive, and you'll have choices. Right now, I think Comcast would tell you, or Charter would tell you, that you have about 150 choices. You'll have thousands of choices when it goes all wireless.
But isn't there really a need to know what's going on in the community?
Oh yes, and there will be WBKM will be there. It'll just be www.wbkm950 at comcast.com. You won't have a radio, you'll have a computer. And that computer will be where your car radio is now. It'll be on your portable radio. But yes, there is definitely a demand for local information. And to be honest with you, that's where we excel, and that is what keeps us in the game.
Oh, there's no question that you all are involved in our community. Just recently, we had the November County Commission. Charles was there, gathering information. I saw one reporter there outside of Charles, and I'm sure that will show up in the big paper out of Nashville. For all intent and purposes, our local paper now is made up of one that's delivered one time a week. Now there are some supplementary flyers that come in the big paper out of Nashville, the Tennessean. I'm not bad-mouthing the Tennessean. I subscribe to that as well as I do the Herald. But at the local level, there's a huge need to get that information out, because even with the wonderful job that the staff does here, and Newt and Heather and the other people that are involved, it's very limited access of what Channel 3 can get the message out to, or should be. I probably didn't say that correctly, but it's very limited in who we can get that message out to.
Well, every weekday morning we go to a different site. We are a private business. We would love to be publicly funded. Can we talk about that today, Mayor?
Not on this channel.
But we are supported by business because we help business sell product. Thank heavens for the R.C. Alexanders of this world, the Mamie MacArthurs of this world, the Jim Moody's. And I shouldn't have started naming names because I couldn't name all the 200 that do business with us every month. But there are people in the community, like Houston Nairn, for instance. He has a presence on our radio station, and he writes a check out of his pocket.
Yeah.
Some people think, well, there's Houston talking about a county commissioner on the air about how when I buy a car locally, that money goes to a lot of it goes to the school system. Some folks think that that's paid for by the county. It's not.
No, it's not. And in fact, it's strange. The other day, Houston and I were talking, and it's a heavy financial commitment on his part. But he truly believes in local radio,
Yes,
and he truly believes in getting the local message out. In our time, we've just finished a presidential election, had a tremendous turnout of the voters to.
83.
It was
More
well
than
over. It was over 78. I don't really.
78%.
But even at 80% of the registered voters to go out and vote on a national election, all of us as politicians and all of us as citizens should feel very good that everyone has a chance to vote if they're registered. But to think that you had that many people involved in the process. Now, flip that over to the local level, whether it's county or cities, then that number drops down into the 20s. Getting that message out is a very difficult thing. A lot of people would say, well, Mayor, the fewer that come out, the better that may serve you. And that may or may not be true. The fact of the matter is there's a lot that goes on. A lot of your tax dollars and my tax dollars are spent at the local level as opposed to getting money from the federal level. Not that the federal level and the state level doesn't do the roads and they do the interstates, but they do send money down for schools. But in our particular area, because of the affluency of Williamson County, because of the way our tax structure is set up with sales tax and et cetera, we receive about 1.5% from the federal level. The people that pay the property tax and the funds we get out of state help to fund the local schools and the local things we do. Long cry for why you're here, but I think it is important that when men such as Houston and when other people, R.C. Alexander is a fine example of helping your station, helping to keep you employed and keep that station on the air.
May I ask you some questions?
Sure.
All right.
My show, but I may not answer it. You understand that?
I understand. Would it make any difference to you? Do you listen to our radio station for music?
The place that I live.
And there is no wrong answer.
I understand that. The place that I live, that I call home, which is only about 3 or 4 miles from here, the office, I can pick up WAKM almost around the clock. Now, once I journey, and as you know, like you're out at many functions throughout the county, sometimes that transmission, sometimes that
After dark.
is very difficult to pick up. I love the sports talk shows.
Okay.
And so the majority of the time, my car radio is set on your station. If I journey to Nashville, which I do once or twice a week for different meetings, that I like to pick up the traffic report, which again, I just push a button and go from 9:50 to 6:50 a.m. to pick up that local transmission of, okay, what's happening out there on the interstate or whatever road I'm traveling on, because I can pick that up. But to answer your question, I very seldom listen to WAKM for the music as I do the news and the local events.
So if we just made the music go away and replaced it with all talk, all news, all sports, it would not bother you.
I would think that I would be one person, but there'd be others that may listen to it for the music. But in my case, I'm more into the talk shows and listening and forming opinions, because that is, outside of sports, the political scenes, the things that are going on at the national level are important to me at the local level.
One more question. You going to hire Phil Fulmer to coach the middle college high school football team?
Somehow I knew that the University of Tennessee, who I support, and your favorite team happens to be in Nashville with black and gold. The University of Tennessee, a short answer, the University of Tennessee is going to be in a rebuilding year for a couple of years. I think, of course, Coach Fulmer is from Winchester, Franklin County. He is a very, very loyal coach who bleeds, no question, he bleeds orange. And his life has been the University of Tennessee. I think he's done a lot of good things. This year, 2008, has been a very, very hard year on not only us that follow football out of the General Neyland Stadium. It has been it's been a very awkward time in which to view him as a coach and see what's happening there. As you know, I think the world of Vanderbilt, so long as when they're not playing Tennessee.
Well, same way I feel about Tennessee.
And it's remarkable to me in this day and time you and I live in that the money that they pay coaches and how quick these coaches are here today and gone within 5 years. You seldom see anymore, Tom, the Joe Paternos that are way up in years, still coaching, maybe from the press box, maybe his men are coaching down on the field more for him because of his particular health.
Oh, the Bobby Bowdens.
And Bobby Bowden's another one. There are some fine coaches out there, and maybe they're worth some dollar amount to turn that program around. But when it's all said and done, it's what you and I are talking about, local radio, whether we talk about government, it's about the dollars and cents.
Well, that's true. Some of the best interviews we've ever had on the radio station have been county judges, county executives, county mayors, because they have to do it all. And my first interview that I can remember with a county judge was, I guess,
Jerry Fly, Wilbur Kelly?
Greer.
Oh.
Mr. Greer. He was a farmer. Judge Greer, Fulton Greer,
Yes.
was replaced. His son was a physician. He was replaced by Wilburn Kelly Jr., prominent coach. I remember the handmade signs now. Elect Coach Kelly all around Williamson County. He was a Fairview citizen. Wilburn Kelly was replaced by Bob Ring.
Correct.
By Clint Callicott.
Correct.
And now by you. You guys have had the county's future in your hands. Is it as tough a job as it appears?
Well, you are getting, we are getting deep, and I want to get into some more of the radio.
Oh, okay.
I think,
Well,
no, let me.
I'm sorry, I'm just doing what's natural.
I know it is. And I will say this, it would be a difficult job if you didn't have the men and women that we have and the caliber of those people. It is very difficult to find a harder working, dedicated individual to public service than David Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
I can say the same thing for the gentleman that is in charge of Channel 3 here.
Newt Danley. Yeah.
That is retired and came back. It wasn't for the money, but he's here early in the morning and he's here late at night. He's on the weekends because he truly believes in the philosophy and in the theory and training young people to take the spots of you and I. Yeah. Local government, Tom, is it is politics. It is, as I was late getting to this show, someone stopping by to check on you, to see what's going on. They can come into the office. You and I, maybe you can, I can't go see the governor of Tennessee just by driving up to see him. There is no way you and I are going to get into the White House without a clearance and a Secret Service clearance. Mm-hmm. So I happen to love it.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, believe it or not, we're going to have all of those men, except for Fulton Greer. We want to have Clint, Wilburn, Bob Ring, and myself sit down here on an interview, and we're trying to pull that together now.
That would be fascinating.
Let me throw one other thing, because our time is running out. We got about 4 minutes. I've enjoyed it. You're a fine person to talk to. I also know that Tom Lawrence has had in his life many opportunities to travel outside of the Williamson County footprint and do advertising, promotions. Your voice is synonymous with past airlines and other parts of the world. I know you've traveled to New York City.
Yeah.
How in the world did you ever get your voice out there like
It's
that?
a funny story. I did an ad for the Chapel Hill Lions Club, promoting their tractor pull. I've done it for them for now for 20-something years. And at one point, I believe it was Exxon Oil was one of their sponsors, and they sent the audio tape of the commercial to their sponsor. An agent called and said, "We heard your voice on this tractor pull commercial. Uh, can you come talk to us?" And I did. It has led to a few opportunities, and yes, I'm in New York every now and then, but not nearly enough. But at the same time, I'd much rather be heard on Main Street than Wall Street anytime.
I know that you may not want to tell all, and you don't know all about the future, but I know you've traveled quite extensively in your life into other countries.
I have. That's been the Lord has been good to me, and this community has been good to me, and I'll continue to travel as long as I physically can. Been in radio now 45 years. That's a long time. But what the future holds, I really don't know. I know that I'm making plans. Uh, I have been very fortunate. I have interviewed plumbers to presidents, and I wish I had kept some of those interviews. But every day it's kind of like Forrest Gump. Every day at living in Williamson County, it's like opening a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get.
Well, and in closing, wrapping up here in the minute or so that we have left, the time's gone by fast. I think history will be very good to you. You have been good to our community, from the chambers to interviews such as this, to your involvement, it seems like, to almost every activity at night. Your voice, people line up to try to get you to come and do it, most of them without pay. I understand that. And I want to say publicly thank you, but thank you for what you've done for our community, you and the radio, and your history of you've been excellent for our community.
Well, I appreciate that. It couldn't be done though. It's not Tom Lawrence. It's Jim Hayes, Charles Dibroll, Darrell Williams, Linda Carden. I could go on and on and on. And it's truly a team effort. And the best part of my day comes at 4 a.m. when I open the radio station, 222 Mallory Station.
And with that, we've got to go. And thank you, Tom. Thank you for what you've done. I'm Rogers Anderson. We'll see you the next time.